Happy Spooky Friday.
Halloween special.
It's our very Halloween special, and we've got an amazing guest today. It's Jenny, the intuitive psychic medium. How amazing!
Hey everyone.
Oh, we've been so we haven't, since Jenny, we just opened this up, haven't we? We haven't stopped talking.
And I was like, we've got to get on the pod. We're going to be so more talking for hours.
Honestly, it's so exciting, and we are so excited to interview you.
Yes, very
today.
close to our hearts, and the podcast in itself, the spirituality, and the psychic side, so
manifestation, intuition, everything that we are into. And we want to deliver that for all our mums and women out there. So
who are struggling, want some advice. So
yeah,
I'm excited, ladies. I just can't wait to get going.
There's so much to talk about. Where do we start?
And Jenny, you're a mum as well. So
yes.
we want to know everything. So how did you get into this? Can you tell everyone about what you do and how you got into it?
Okay. So what I do at the moment, so I'm an intuitive psychic medium, which means that I can read people in body, which is the psychic part, and mediumship part is I can read people out of body, so what we would call spirit or ghosts or souls out of body. I'm also an intuitive coach, so I help people step into a greater sense of awareness of their spirituality and really they're the main reasons why they're on the planet. So if they're not in their purpose, how we can move them more into alignment. That would be like releasing limited belief systems and blocks, because we really all came here to shine and not, suffer. And I'm also a psychic development tutor. So I teach both men and women. I'm very excited that I've now started a men's workshop too. But I think I've taught around 100 ladies since this sort of time last year so far in psychic development. And the fascinating thing is that we can all do it from day one. There is not one lady that can't do psychic mediumship. It's something I like to say, that we are born psychic mediums. I used to think that you had to be special or have like a special gift to be a psychic medium, but that is actually not the case. We are spirit within a human body, and therefore we already have all of this stuff ready to go. It's just about remembering how to use it. So I get very passionate about teaching people this because I want to make sure people are feeling that they can always connect into their loved ones. It's great to go to a medium, you get that kind of external validation, but if you know you can talk to your loved one and work out a language and get signs from them every single day, I mean, it's so freeing. So yeah, that's my current setup. I come from a very different background. I come from a HR background. So I was a HR manager before for a local charity here in Worthing. But what I noticed, ladies, was that I was already using the skill set I do now in my business, even when I was working in HR, which I would call it like our zone of genius. So we've all got this zone of genius and we're born with it. We don't have to have necessarily a qualification to do it. And I noticed that when I worked in HR, I would have a staff member that would come and have a one-to-one kind of session with me in the sense of a meeting. And I was always able to leave them in a better state than I found them, when they first came in. And that's what I noticed around my work. It's just the impact that you can have on another person is just brilliant. So if you can leave someone in a better place than you find them, I think that's what our main job is here to do. So yeah, very different background to what I do now. And I had to get used to saying that I wasn't a HR manager anymore, because I think we can always attach to those kind of labels. But no, very, very different. And I am a mum. I've got 2 little girls, one that's just turned 8 and one that's 4. And they keep me very busy, but also they're so spiritually in tune. The children, they're not shut down unless we shut them down. They're fully open channels. So we've had lots of instances of, spirit communication and wild, what I would call normal, but some people would call paranormal activity in our sort of home environment. So it's just fascinating. And I think the more we open ourselves up to this magic, is what I would call it, your life, it just gets super magical, and you stop fearing stuff and you recognize you're being very much guided. So you don't self-sabotage as much. It can have an impact on your whole life. Every single area of your life changes.
Oh my God,
It's
I
fascinating.
love it.
It just reminded me of that quote by Roald Dahl when it said it's something like, if you don't believe in magic, you'll never see the magic, or something like that.
That's so weird, because the other day, you know, like there's like on Facebook, there was a reel and it said exactly that. And I love this. That's called synchronicity. So from my point of view, you know, when people say, oh, have you heard of the word synchronicity?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but then people will say, oh, it's a coincidence or it's synchronicity. Well, I kind of disagree. I think that there is only synchronicity in this universe. There isn't such a thing as a coincidence. You can have more meaningful, say, synchronicity than less meaningful, but every single thing coming in is showing you something. And that's really interesting. You said that, Paisley, because what you believe is based on your belief systems, and that's how you create your reality in the quantum field, through your belief systems. So the only thing that you believe is what you're going to see, whether you're conscious of it or not. So if you've got a conscious block that I don't believe in the magic, then you're not certainly going to see it. So that's thing that, you know, like if someone's sort of cynical, then you really, it's a bit sad really, because they're so closed off to what reality actually is. But you are only going to see the stuff if you truly believe it.
Do you think that's how things like depression arise and things like that? People that are very unattached from, like, spiritually. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Is that quite controversial, me saying that? Because
No, not at all. Not at all. No, I think there's lots of things that we could say cause depression, but it's really the connection or the lack of connection to self. Because when you realize you're the awareness behind the thought, if you're attaching to the thought, so if you believe you're something that you're not, depression happens when, I guess, ego gets really, really loud and people assume they're this thing that they're not. Also, it can mean that they're not in alignment with what they're meant to be doing on the planet. So if they can have a belief system so early on, which is called a limited belief system. Most of us have this thing called the human condition. So we're born as like a blank canvas, and then we get programmed in very early on from about 0 to 7. Our brain is in a theta brainwave state, means we're actually in a hypnotic state. So the people around us, mum and dad, for example, not that we're blaming our parents here, but they will create sort of these belief systems that they're not their own anyway, they're from the ancestral lines, but they will program into us what they believe. And then we assume, like, we have a belief, I'm not enough, or I'm undeserving of love, or you know, I'm not validated, I don't deserve to be on the planet. I mean, they can be deep-rooted belief systems. And then depression happens when you truly believe those belief systems, but you're not conscious of them. So what happens is your reality will mirror your belief systems, whether you're conscious or not. So depression would be an example of that. You believe you're something you're not, so you're not connected into yourself or your higher self. Depression, I suffered from depression most of my life. I just turned 40. And for 36 years, there were times where I didn't even want to be on the planet. And that was because I was full on unconscious, believing these belief systems, which are called generational traumas coming down the lines. And it takes a soul that comes in on the lines to feel it and to heal it. And I was the lucky soul that got that job. So there was quite a lot.
Healing.
And it took a while. It took a while to get to that point. But the key is stepping into awareness of what you're telling yourself. So when I was in sort of a depressive state, I would be repeating this narrative to myself that I'm not good enough, or I'm undeserving, or I shouldn't be on the planet. And so I started believing it. And guess what? Then I saw it everywhere. I would attract in people and situations to corroborate that belief system. And then I thought one day, okay, how about if I flip the script? So how about if I get super aware of what I'm telling myself? And instead of telling myself, which takes way more energy, by the way, all these negative things, I'm going to start talking to myself as if I'm my best friend. And I would say overnight, my reality started to shift. And now I live in this state of, it's just pure magic every day. That's how I describe my reality.
Do you
That's
think
amazing.
some of that comes from, you know, the book The Secret? So I had really bad depression in my 20s, and I think exactly that. I was not connected to my source. It was all about getting grades, going to the best schools, you know, go and get a good job. And then one day I was like, what is all this for? And I didn't understand spirituality, but I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't even want to do this job. I didn't know who I was. And then when I started to learn about myself and the change of thought pattern from the book and everything else, like you said, everything changed.
Yeah.
But back then, 20 years ago, it was never spoken about. But I'd love, this is why I want you on, to just all our listeners out there, which are worldwide,
Yeah.
maybe look at other aspects and learn about themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the only journey really is on this thing we call life is to learn about us. Most of us are trying to work out everyone else or trying to control the behaviours of other people without taking accountability for ourselves. So it's really interesting you mentioned The Secret, because I just watched a podcast with Bob Proctor, who is very famous. He was part of The Secret filming and the book. And he talks about this thing called the paradigm. So your paradigm, whatever you're sort of experiencing right now, is based on your limited belief systems. 90% of those are in your subconscious. So only 10% of your reality is running on conscious level. So when you were, I guess, at say 20 years ago, when you were shown that, and it's interesting because that was around the time I started hearing about The Secret. The Secret obviously talks about law of attraction. But it kind of doesn't go full in. This is such a big subject, but it's your vibration that creates your reality. So we've got this thing called the quantum field, which is the space that we can't see physically, but we're tapped into all the time. So in the quantum field, there is no time or space. If we look around the room now, what you see is a third dimensional reality, which looks solid. But as we kind of move up dimensions, then spirit vibrate about 8th or 9th dimension. You won't be able to physically see it, but your body will be able to feel it. So our reality is based on a lot more than we were ever told. So your reality is being created through an electromagnetic field that's being sent out by your energetic field. So if you're holding those belief systems, which are not your own, by the way, unless you're in awareness and you've done a lot of inner work and shadow work, most of the systems that are running you, or the programs, if we call them programs, are the ones that are currently creating your reality. So if you don't like something in your reality, you've got to work out what belief system it is. And what you're doing is you're sending these electromagnetic signals out into the quantum field. And the only thing that come back, it's called the law of resonance, is similar stuff to based on that vibration. So if you don't like your reality, you shift your vibration. And then most people will go, well, how do I do that, Jenny? Okay, well, now you're going to have to reprogram your subconscious. And we have this thing, this major organ in the body called the brain, which is the biggest antenna on the planet, by the way. So you could read someone in Australia right now with no time or space by connecting into the quantum field. So that's why I can read people and they don't have to be sitting in the room with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so yeah, we are way more powerful than we've ever been told, or because if you recognize this is how powerful you are, you can't be controlled. So it's around this. It's around coming back to our natural state. But what you can do is what I would call the internal coach, is what I call it. It's a really good technique, and it shifted my reality so quickly. Was I started to reprogram my neuro pathways in my brain. So this is called neuroscience. So what happens is the brain has this thing called neuroplasticity. So you can rewire your brain within 3 days. So if you want to start rewiring, you start talking to yourself in a kind narrative and say, you know, Jenny, you're amazing. Jenny, I love you. Jenny, I validate you. Jenny, I see you. All those things that you've probably worked out in your reality have come in. Like you may have attracted men that don't see you, for example, based on a father wound, or you may have these people that come in and they don't value you because you don't value yourself. And most people are so unconscious of this stuff, they'll just repeat the cycle over and over again. So the first thing to do is rewire the neuro pathways in the brain, which can take just 3 days. And that is literally just starting to talk kindly to yourself. Then you're going to send out a new electromagnetic signal into the quantum field. And then the universe, who loves us unconditionally, is just going to say yes to you. So it's going to go, right, now Jenny believes and she's embodied that feeling of she's enough. I'm going to now show her people and situations to show her she's enough. So it's called it's like a mirror, I guess. The universe is mirroring you in your internal state.
And it's all science-based. So for me, it's not just made up. And that's, you know, like all the biohacking stuff that's out now that we're getting more attuned to. Like is it the PEMF machines that are all electromagnetic? Is it electromagnetic?
Yeah.
That all works on our physical body. So I think people are becoming more aware of us as, how do you say the word, electromagnetic fields?
Well, so we've got the thing called the aura that surrounds us, which has been proven by science. What I love and I get so excited about is that people thought this, or they would call it woo-woo before, but now science is catching up and science is leading the way in consciousness. And neuroscience has proven that thought happens outside of the brain. So the brain is the antenna. So we are literally being channeled frequencies, and it depends. So, you know, when you said, like, if people are suffering from depression, a bit like a radio station, say radio 1 is I'm going to suffer from depression, and radio 2 is I'm free of depression. You're actually channeling it to radio 1, for example, but you get a choice on how you perceive your reality and how you create your reality. So the first thing is to become aware of, I'm not depressed in the sense of that isn't your natural state, but you believe something that's untrue. So and people can get really triggered by this stuff. And I feel like if you're not ready to hear it, it's good if you get triggered, because that's what I needed to wake myself up. Sometimes you have to get pushed into the most awful circumstances, like suffering, to get the awakening that you need, because the universe has a really funny way of kicking you up the bum if you're not doing what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that like a few times in my life.
Yeah, I think for me, I started connecting more when I lost my nan, because I was so desperate to talk to her on the other side, because she was like our second mum, really. And I was like, I know she's out there, and I used to get like loads of signs and stuff. And I really was like, I just wanted to connect with her. So I think the minute I started to and it's, your brain is just a muscle, isn't it? And that intuitive, like your third eye is just a muscle. So the more you train and more you work on it, the stronger you get with, like, you know, seeing people on the other side. And I get quite a lot of messages, like, sometimes, but I normally get it. It's so weird. Like, if some, like, the weirdest thing for me, I will get messages from the other side when, like, I've got like like reflexology on my feet. I saw like a spirit and massages, things like that, where they're touching me, and I literally see the people behind them. And like, I had reflexology the other week, and I said to the lady who's doing my reflexology, and like, I just really needed it because I just had the baby, and I was like, oh God, I really need reflexology.
Love it. I love reflexology.
Yeah, she was so amazing. But I was like, oh my God, I can see your dad behind you.
Wow.
And but the thing is, I think I re-question myself, and I'm like, am I making this up or is it real? And then I told her all this stuff, and she was like, Isla, like, everything you've just said was completely spot on. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so real. Like, I can't tell you. Like, it's like, and the messages we've had from spirit, you normally get them in dreams, but I can, like, visually, I can't see their faces, but I can see their outline, and I feel what they are, like, whether it's a male or female, or and the age, whether they're older or younger. I would like to develop it more. I think for me, life has just taken over, and I really, is something that I, you know, would like to develop more. So I definitely want to speak to you after the podcast, because I really, my friend does training with you, and I would really, I really want to. Yeah,
I'd love to have you ladies come and have a visit.
I love it.
Great course. What was really interesting was I was listening to the language you used to work out what Claire you were using. So we have the clairs, if you've heard of the clairs. We've got clairvoyance, we've got clairaudient, clairsentience, clairaugustance. I can never say the other one. Clairalliance, which is clear taste, I think. And Claire, what's the other one? Cognizance. So you said you used the words I see, and you also said the words I feel. So the see is the clairvoyance. So you're seeing here. So that's clairvoyance. And you can work out. So every single person is using their psychic senses every single day, and you can work it out on what use of language that you like, the use of language. So you're using clairvoyance. You said I could see, and you also said I could feel, which is clairsentience. So you're able to feel the emotions of others. You're probably most likely an empath. Most of us are. So we get, hypersensitive to energies and things like that. But what I love is I always pick up on what senses people are using, because people think I think that this stuff is, I've got to really, really practice to get it. But you've been using your senses your whole life. And psychic abilities, if you've had complex trauma as a child, and I always like to mention this, that there is a link between complex trauma in childhood and psychic abilities, or advanced psychic abilities, because, as children, when we have to read people, so we have to read people to keep ourselves safe. Sometimes if we haven't come from a safe environment, and that's where people pleasing comes in as well. That's another technique we learn about trying to control others to make ourselves feel safe. But the psychic abilities you've been using since day one, so you've got it all ready to go. But you're probably your strongest senses are going to be clairvoyance from just what you said, because you were seeing a lot, but also sentience, which is the clear sensing of, I sense people. Or if you know things, like if you just know I've got a male here, even though you might not be able to see them, that's called claircognizance. So I always find it really fascinating to see which ones you're using, but you use them in everyday life. And the difference between intuition, which was kind of like a buzzword at the minute, everyone seems to like talking about intuition, which is great. Intuition is the equivalent of, say, a roadmap, and psychic abilities is your kind of GPS. So intuition is the start, and then you heighten the intuition to get your psychic abilities to come online. And I said, it's just practice. But the one thing you mentioned, which everyone says, is about trusting yourself. The biggest block to mediumship, or your intuition, in fact, is trusting the information that you get. Because what happens is we get so programmed as children and through the schooling system to live up here in the brain or live up here in the logical mind. But intuition comes in from the heart, and your heart, or your sort of your energetic field within the body, your heart can read the electromagnetic field 1,000 times faster than the brain. So, when you get that feeling around someone or something, but the brain logically is like, oh, but they're really nice, everyone else likes them, but I'm not sure what it is. And you're trying to force yourself to like this person. And then, lo and behold, about 6 months later, you find out that they weren't particularly nice. It's about really trusting your senses.
Yeah. And also, I wanted to actually ask you a question, actually, because when I was pregnant, I don't know what it was, but my intuition was so strong. Like, for example, my daughter, my toddler, who's 5, she was like playing like quite far away, like not in like my eye, but she was with her older sister, and I knew that she was crying at the top of this crying frame. I bear in mind I couldn't see her, I couldn't hear her, and I said to my husband, I was like, I'm going to go over there. I feel that she's crying, and I reckon she's right at the top of that thing. And it was so weird. I went over there. She was like, "Mommy,
I'm stuck.
I'm stuck up here." She just literally, she goes to the top, and then she has this fear of coming down. And so I was like really heavily pregnant. I had to call my husband to get her. But can you tell me a bit more about that? Because actually that's something that I never, and there was quite a few situations when my intuition was so strong that I was like, that is so weird. I knew that was going to happen, and it actually did, but I felt stronger with my intuition then than I do, like, obviously I've got a baby and my intuition's still quite strong now, but before I was pregnant it wasn't as strong, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's really interesting is they talk about the mother's intuition, doesn't they? Mother knows, even like a doctor saying, oh, your child's not sick or there's nothing wrong with it. And the mum's going, but I know there's something wrong. And they can't prove it. There isn't a logical explanation, but they know, and it's always proven right. But what's happening there is, so we are all connected within the sort of the electromagnetic field, and there is no time or space. So when your daughter is, say, crying and in distress, what she's doing is she's sending a signal out into the field, which is connected to you, because we're all one. That's the thing, it's one consciousness. She's basically phoning you up, and she gets your little cells to start vibrating to bring in the message of, I need my mummy, and then you get the message. So it's a bit like she's doing like a phone call. So, like if we pick up the phone and I phoned you now, it'd be instantaneous. But you're doing the same. It's just energy, it's just thought, it's like a signal.
Then is that like telepathy?
It's the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. So we're all naturally telepathic, because you can read someone quite easily. They might be saying one thing, but you're hearing another, and it's that kind of thing. But you're going to find that happens more and more, and it's really interesting that they're using the example of your children, because spirit have a way, or you are guiding yourself here. That for me, the biggest awakening came when I started, being a mum and things like that, because it got louder and louder. And I think that's really around the feminine, because I mentioned to you previously, the feminine, or us women, we are the masters of the spiritual realm, and the men are the masters of the physical realm. So we are the portals for spirit to come in, if you think about it, because we're the ones creating the baby, we're the ones holding. That's when the soul comes in. So, we are the divine feminine. We are so powerful. And that is just the tip of literally the tip of the iceberg of what you're actually capable of doing.
can you tell us how you got into this and
Yeah,
how it started? Was it 8 years ago, or was it way before that?
Well, so I've got an identical twin, and when we were younger, I suppose weird things happen, but they're not weird anymore. So we would have like orbs in our photos, you know, like have you ever seen photos with the energy orbs and things? We would, I mean, so her name's Rosie, I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning her name, but so when Rosie was 2.5 as well, she spoke an adult language, and she said to my mum, Mummy, I wasn't meant to come to you. I was meant to go to Mrs. Brown, but I wanted to come and be with Jenny in your belly. And my mum was a little bit confused because she was talking not like a 2.5-year-old. She was talking in like adult language. And mum was like, well, who's Mrs. Brown? And she didn't say anything after that. And she went back to being a 2.5-year-old. But we had some strange stuff happen. And I can remember getting this ringing in the ears when I was really young. Now, this is called an ascension symptom. So your followers or the listeners might get this, or they might have had it since they were a child, or it might be coming in since 2020. But it's like a loud kind of, it's a high-pitched noise, and it kind of goes like, and it will be in one ear. It's not tinnitus. It's not in both ears. And it probably lasts about 10 seconds. So I used to say to my mum, Mummy, can you hear the electricity in the room? And she would be, and my sister Rosie used to get it as well. And she'd be like, hasn't got a clue what we're talking about. But what that is, it's spirit tuning you in, a bit like a frequency, or they're tuning your frequency in, and it's kind of an energetic download. So we were already being primed to do what we do today. And I remember like having, and you might get this, especially Paisley, if you're saying you were getting a lot of the dreamlike state, the space or the time between the conscious mind shutting off and the subconscious gateway is, you know, the sleep-wake state, that bit, you know, when you're just about to fall asleep. And I would like see all these people, and I would hear the voices, and I would go and home in on their kind of like conversations, and I would remember them. And I just thought that was normal. I didn't really, you know, think that was spirit. I didn't really click on any of this stuff, probably in the last, say, 3 to 4 years when I looked into mediumship, and I read a book, and this was freaky. The first chapter of the book, it talked about an example of this medium, and guess what her name was? Jenny. It's the first book I read. So I'm reading it going, oh my God, it's like synchronicity, isn't it? They're talking about me, and I'm a medium. I couldn't believe that I could be a medium. And it started mentioning about the faces before going to sleep. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I do. And I then worked out, oh my God, I've been doing it all my life. I just hadn't clicked I was doing it. And I think I mentioned to you previously, for me, it got really loud when my daughter Evie was born. So she was born 8 years ago, literally the other day. She was 8. And I started to hear voices. Now, as you know, like if you tell one of the midwives or the health visitors, oh, I'm hearing these voices, and it was happening outside of my head. It wasn't inside my head. They probably think, right, let's get the psychiatrist in. She's got, postnatal depression, which I think I had as well. So I started hearing these voices, and I wasn't scared because I was aware that I was probably a medium, but I didn't really click on it first. And then it got really weird. And I won't lie, this got scary. When she was about 6 weeks old, I had the movement of objects start. So I would touch an object and I would feel really hormonal, see, because of the pregnancy hormones and things. And I would the object would then fly across the room, like 3 meters sometimes. And it would be heavy objects, like a photo frame. And I started working out it was every object I touched that would move. And I thought, oh my God, there's a poltergeist. Like I've got a poltergeist. And I was really scared. And all these mums that I was connected to in the mummy groups, they were going on about their children not sleeping. And I'm sitting there in my bed at night going, I'm scared that I'm going to have some object fly across a room. And I hadn't got a clue what to do, because I was like, I don't know anyone else where this has been happening. And all my friends were like, you need to move out your house. And I was like, but nothing had happened in my house for 2.5 years that I lived there prior to having my daughter. So something awakened when I had Evie. And then I started working out it was my energy, and it was linked to my menstrual cycle. So it would be a few days before my period, I'd get, when you get really angry and you want to not be very nice to people. It would be that would be when the object started to move. So I would get frustrated and put something down, and then it would fly across the room. So it was almost like an energy transference onto the object.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But it was scary at first because I didn't understand what it was. And then as I started in my business and I started channeling for people, and by channeling, I mean get the information from the quantum field, whether that's spirit, your guides, or just general collective consciousness stuff, that's when it all started to calm down. So I think it was my energy was going outward as opposed to coming inward. So I recognized that, this is something I'm probably going to develop, telekinesis. But at that moment in time, I was like, oh, I'm now using that energy to channel for people and, to have spirit communication and things like that. But it was really interesting that all kicked off at the sort of when my daughter was born.
That's incredible.
Wow.
And how did you control that? How did you get it inwards to you, the energy, rather than pushing it out?
So I first of all had to recognize that there was nothing to fear. That it wasn't, we get programmed through the films and things like paranormal activity. I had to recognize that there was no bad energy in the house when the objects were moving. And I had to work out my own energy. So I had to work out who am I and what's my energy? What does it feel like? So I recognized that it wasn't any other spirit. It was actually me doing it. And it was my energy moving the objects. And I had this really strange dream, and it was with this being with these massive eyes. And I said to her, because I've always done it in dreamlike states, I would always do telekinesis, and I'd come back in, and come back into the body, and I'd wake up, and my hands would be red hot from doing and I would literally wake up and try and lift up stuff, and it just wouldn't work. Wow. And this being said to me, I said, well, when can I control the movement of objects? And she said, when you're 45. And I'm 40 now, so I've got 5 years. And then I had another dream with another being with these massive eyes. And I said, why can I move the objects? And she said, because your DNA is linked to the high priestess. And I hadn't done tarot or anything. I'd heard of the high priestess, but didn't know what that meant. So I literally woke up, Googled, what does high priestess mean? Well, high priestess is the divine feminine energy, which we all embody because we are the feminine, aren't we? So this was around recognizing your innate power, and we are literally the masters of the spirit realm. So we are able to do telekinesis. It's just remembering and then sort of upgrading to that vibration where we're going to be able to do it. So I kind of lost the fear around it, and I then got really curious and excited about it. And I thought, well, if I can do that, what else can I do? And that's when I started doing the channeling. And by channeling, it meant me moving into the thing that scared me the most, holding readings for people. Because I started watching a very famous medium called Tyler Henry, who I absolutely adore. And he's the Hollywood medium, and he's very authentic. I get such a good vibe from him. Some of them I'm not too sure on, but he was really good evidential medium. And I used to cry. Every episode I would cry, and I'd go, I just wish I could do that. And I don't know when it clicked, but I was like, my friend then said to me, a week later, oh, Jenny, can you do a reading for me? And I was like, yeah, okay, because it's a friend, there's no pressure. And I remember I don't even drink alcohol, but I had a sip of vodka before she came round because I was so scared. And what I worked out was that I gave her an hour and a half reading, and all this messaging started coming in, and she was crying. And I was like, when she left, I can remember I was shaking, and I went upstairs, and I wasn't shaking because I was fearful of it. I was shaking of oh my God, I'm a medium. And it was so exciting because it was obviously something I always dreamt of doing. But I just never recognized it up to that point. And then so gradually I moved into doing mediumship. And I wouldn't charge anyone. They would have friends of friends come. And every single time I'd be wowing, blowing my own mind, to be fair. And when I doubted myself, the next day someone would message going, oh my God, Jenny, you're on the right path. This is where you need to be. And so it was almost like the universe going, keep going, keep going, keep going. But I had to push through imposter syndrome. I had to, and to be able to then teach it to currently probably over the year about 120 people, I imagine. I had to get out my own way to do that as well, because I thought, who am I to teach this stuff? I've never been formally trained. I have had, training in some sort, in the sense of, mentors and things. But I was recognizing that, oh, okay, well, I've already got this stuff ready to go, so I might as well now start sharing it, because this is how it's changed my life. I want to pass it on to as many people as I can. But I want it to make it really accessible to everyone. Because when you realize that you are never alone and you're never away from your loved ones in that sense, and you can communicate every single day with them, and you can have some great communication, My friend used to say, Jenny, you're going to do yourself out of the job. And I thought, well, no, because I want to be the person that wasn't there for me, say 3 years ago, when I wanted to have someone to say, you're a psychic medium, you're a psychic medium, you're a psychic medium. Here's how you connect in, and here's how you start opening up.
That world is obviously getting a lot bigger. So when we were I remember like psychic mediums, well, a long time ago, they were all a bit sort of, you know, different looking, and like they had
the crystal.
Well, gothy, witchy.
I don't even have long nails. Look, this is the average psychic medium these days.
And Mum didn't. She used to go to, well, she took us to a lot of spiritual churches, and you almost sit there and go, we're not like anybody in here, but it's becoming a little bit more mainstream now.
Yeah.
And
well, people are awakening.
Yeah,
they're awakening. That's it.
Like, I think people are awakening. There's a lot more people who are more open now. Even for like my husband's a lot more open than he used to be. Like when I first met him, he was completely shut off.
Yes.
But he had an experience happen to him, and even though I say to him, he doesn't always, like, he just like lets it go, but he has awakened little, because he had someone come to him in a dream once who passed over, and I was like, that is a message, that is them giving you a message. So yeah, I think people are awakening, and I think it's really good, like, having you on the podcast to actually talk about the science behind it, everything else, because it's so important for, even if people really do shut off to it, just open a tiny bit of that door, because it will take you through like to another realm. And it's not even that, it's just nothing seems negative anymore. Like everything, you understand the reasons behind it, why that happened to you. Well, yeah, that was shit what happened to you, but it happened to you because this has come into the, do you know what we spoke to someone the other day, and they went through quite a traumatic time, and but from that traumatic time she set up an amazing business, wasn't it, Paisley? So I think, you've got to listen, like you said, listen to the universe, listen to their messages, don't shut them down and think, oh, am I going crazy, because it's all around us, isn't it?
And it's all, everyone's always learning, so I think the more you can learn about yourself and life, just gives you a purpose. For me, it was a purpose. It's like, right, I'm starting to understand things now, and rather than being in the victim mode, like, why is this always happening to me? I changed my mindset. So,
and I love what you said about, just loving yourself, being kind to yourself. Like I said, could you advise on any of our listeners, and us in a way, actually, because we're really intrigued, for someone who has got their door completely shut, like how they can make a start on opening up their psychic abilities, their intuition, how would they start that journey?
Well, I'll probably say if they've got their door completely shut, they're probably never going to be able to do it. Because if you remember, like, in how we talk about reality, so we've got the doors, like, so cynics, for example, unless they could have like a near-death experience, that might wake them up. They might have a mass trauma, that might wake them up, if that's part of what's going to happen for their journey. But if we've got people that are like, okay, I like skeptics because they're questioning stuff, so that's good. So it's just recognizing how reality works. And Paisley, you said it really well. It was like, you're starting to get the information from the quantum field where I'm not in a victim state anymore, because I recognize I'm the one creating it. So it's the way to get your heightened abilities is starting to get super conscious and recognizing and integrating the information around how our reality is created, because you are the one creating the reality. And when you recognize that you're spirit within a human body, and you can be open to that idea, that's when things start getting magical, because what we forget, or what we're kind of programmed not, because again, if you programmed a baby from 0 to 7 that they're an interdimensional being having a human experience, they're going to believe you, aren't they? If you program someone from 0 to 7 in that hypnotic brainwave state that they're not, then they're going to believe you because they're running on the subconscious. So what I like to say to my ladies is that we've forgotten. So we think we're the equivalent of this fingernail here. So say that's Jenny, that's me. Then and this is the earth plane. So this is third dimensional reality, which looks solid, but it's all vibrating. Then we've got this thing called the veil, which, you know, as like in Halloween, the veil starts thinning. So it's the energetic field. So what happens is that when we incarnate into the body, so me as Jenny, I've come into this body and created the character of Jenny before coming down. I come through the veil. I forget everything. Otherwise, there'd be not much fun in this version of human life. And I just believe I'm this fingernail. But I've forgotten that I am connected to all of this, which is 99% of my soul. There's only about 1% of your light quotient or so in your human body, because that's as much as it can fit into the third dimension. So you are connected to 99% of your light quotient or your higher self, whatever we want to call it, higher self, soul, intuition, that vibrates about 9th dimension. So you are 99% in the spirit realm right now, and you've forgotten, or people have forgotten. So the more you connect back to that and actually go, it's a bit like we're living in a dreamlike state, and we only realize when we, you know, come out of body, we pass over. We're like, oh yeah, that's what it was all about. It was just a game. So we are in it's kind of like a simulation. So and so then you start thinking, well, if it's a simulation and this isn't really our natural state and we're only here for a short time to learn lessons, well, how about I start creating some more fun, some more magic? So it kind of flips your idea of how reality works, and you don't fear as much. You then, you know, move into that job that you really want to do, or you start your own business because you recognize that you're the one that's going to be creating it. So you could create whatever you want, because in theory, you created the cosmos. You've just forgotten you created the cosmos. So does that make sense? So we are that powerful, but 99% of us is in the spirit realm and with our loved ones, which is our home. It's our natural state. And there's this 1% in body that thinks it's Jenny with all its limited belief systems, which it's not. We are the awareness behind it. We've just created this kind of avatar or character to learn something called soul lessons. It's like soul contracts.
Favorite film?
Avatar.
And everyone's like,
I love Avatar.
Honestly, it's just, for us, it's magical. We love it. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's such a long film. I was like, no, we love it. We love it.
Do you get the when you watch things like Avatar, do you get like a knowing or a remembering feeling? Like, do you get tingles, or do you feel yourself lifting higher in vibration when you watch stuff like that?
I kind of get tingles because you just know that there's like you said, we are the higher self, but it's being aware of that. And
there's lots of
the connection is what I love. The connection to nature, how we are so connected. And actually, I was voice noting someone I knew the other day, and they're having like panic attacks, having a bit of a tough time. And I said, get yourself outside. Put your feet in soil, which I say to all the listeners.
Grounding. Yeah.
Go and ground yourself, because you're, like you said, you're out of your energy. And I said, put your back against a tree and the energy will come into you, because it's, you know, we're all one. And I think as soon as you remember that, it's I mean, you know, I've just had a baby. The first week, oh gosh, I wasn't myself. I wasn't in my body. And I couldn't wait to get outside. But that 2 weeks I was in recovery. For the first 2 weeks.
You're out all the time now.
I know, I'm out all the time. I don't know how. Jenny, I've only got a 4-week-old at the
moment.
I
know, I heard. And it was really interesting you said that, because I can remember when I first went on my nature walk after having, I think it was Hallie, so she's 4. And I suddenly felt like myself again. And when you're talking into connecting to nature, so nature and animals hold 5th dimensional consciousness. So they're programmed purposely to hold a higher state of consciousness, so that when we're around them, our natural state goes to 5th dimension. So 5th dimensional consciousness is one that doesn't live in fear, and it recognizes you're a version of me just as another version. So how am I going to hurt you? Because if I hurt you, I'm going to hurt myself. So this is around 5th dimensional awareness. There are no wars, by the way. That's all 3rd dimension. Control, greed, that's the lower vibration. So animals already hold 5th dimensional consciousness. So the more we can get into nature around animals as well, your energetic field's going to shift up. And if you touch, I think it's a tree for like even 30 seconds, it changes every eon in your body to negative charge. So if you're suffering things like autoimmune disease or, you know, cancers and things like that, it's caused from inflammation in the body, if you can get grounding and touch a tree just for 30 seconds a day, it's going to really bring down everything, all the inflammation. So it's so powerful.
This is why I think, I love where we live as well. There's so many trees. I get really upset when people cut trees down because
I know it hurts my heart.
I know sometimes it has to be done, but like with Avatar as well, it's like they all connect to that the Mother Nature. It's the Mother Nature tree from memory, isn't it? It was a long time ago I watched this, and they have, is it their tails that the signals that link into the ground and the tree,
and they all connect, don't they? They all connect underground via. That's the Avatar, isn't it? You know, in the Avatar when they have all the connections, that's what trees do. Yeah.
That lady back to life.
Yeah.
From, I think, from memory. My train of thought's gone now, but I was on something and I forgot.
No, it's just like all the energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like how we're all connected, which is amazing. As it's Halloween,
yes.
Is there anything that has actually really scared you and been like, oh my god? Maybe you're probably not as scared now because you're aware. But like, can you tell us any stories or spirits? Do you talk to them? Like, tell us.
I mean, so for me, it's really interesting to say, is there anything that scared you? Beside initially when the objects were flying across rooms, that did scare me, but I didn't have the knowledge or understanding of what that was at that point. But something happened in the summer, and I mean, I have spoken to spirits, like most of the time, everyone's spirits that come in are all really nice, got nice energy. I have had a couple of people that have been murdered, and when they've come in, it's a really different energy. But that's only been a couple of times, and it's not that I'm scared of them. It's almost like a repelling feeling. It's like I don't want to connect to you, but there's obviously like a dark energy that's still sitting there. But something happened in the summer, and we'd gone to this Georgian house. It's a beautiful location, by the way. It's called Moonfleet Manor. It's on the top of just at Chesil Beach in Dorset, and it's the most beautiful hotel. And we went there last year, and it's all set up for kids as well. It's brilliant. And we went there last year, and we stayed within the Georgian manor house, and there was no spirits there, but there was this really weird energy around where this play barn was, which was just a bit further away from the house. So it's all purpose built. So there was obviously something that had happened on that land. And this time we got put in the old farmhouse, which had been renovated. So, I mean, these are beautiful rooms. Like, you go there, it's like kind of like 5-star, kind of lovely, beautiful. And we got there and I didn't feel anything in the room. And I was like, oh my God, this is stunning. But I noticed we were obviously quite close to the play barn, which has the weird energy. And but the first night that we were in there, the girls had gone to sleep. So we're all in this big room. And so the girls had gone to sleep. My husband, Mark, had gone to sleep. And then all of a sudden I heard this knocking, like really loud knocking right by the bedside cabinet. So I woke up and I said to Mark, can you hear that? And he went, yeah, I heard that. So I'm just like, oh, something's playing kind of thing. But I mean, all this stuff happens a lot around me, so I wasn't that fussed about it. It didn't scare me. Then about half an hour later, I woke up, and this was weird because I was obviously asleep. And I woke up bolt upright, and I literally just turned and looked into the corner of the room. And there's this like massive black swirling mass doing this. So I'm like, Mark, can you see it? And I called it a black vortex. I had no idea why I called it a black vortex, but I said, can you see that swirling black vortex? And he's like, no. And then as I kind of became more and more conscious, it went. So I was like, okay, so we've had the knocking and now I've seen a black vortex. Okay, I'm not really liking this now. So I went back to sleep and I put a little bit of protection in with my guides. And then where I was positioned, like where I was facing with the bed, I was looking out into the corridor where there was sensor lighting. And the sensor lighting was about a foot off the floor, so it wouldn't be like a creepy crawly could set it off. And I woke up and it was about 12:30. And as I woke up, within about a second of me opening my eyes, the sensor lighting went off. And I was like, oh my God, something's just set it off out there. And everyone's asleep. So I'm like, okay. I wasn't scared given my job. I'm like, okay, something's just playing with the electrics. And so I started just channeling, and I just started asking my guides who's there. And there was this guy that came in instantly, and he was from the 1600s, and he had this really old sort of sailor uniform on. So where this hotel was positioned, it was on the smuggling. There was lots of smuggling that used to go on. And so I thought, oh, okay, he's probably around there. And I just told him to bugger off, basically, because I didn't want to connect him at the time. And then all of a sudden I saw this this goat skull with, like the horns. Oh. And I didn't click at first until the next morning. I was like, that's a bit of a weird reference to just have in. And so I went back to sleep and then woke up in the morning. There was no energy. And I went to breakfast, and my mum, who was staying inside the actual hotel in the house, I sort of met her. I said, oh, Mum, it's been a really active night. We've had this guy come in and all this was happening. And then he showed me this, the skull of the goat and the horns. And she's like, oh my God, Jenny. And I'm like, what? She goes, it's the sign of the devil. And I'm like, so I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, it is the sign. So it's the sign of the devil or Satan or whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, that's not much fun, is it? But looking back, I think it was my guide saying, don't communicate with it, actually. But so my mum, bless her, she's not really religious, but she started I'm going to say the Lord's Prayer in the room. So she went, and I did like a clearing of the room and all of that. And then for 2 nights, nothing happened. And then the last night we were there, I even joked and said, and I called it Sid. I don't know why I called it Sid, but I did. And I said, oh, let's hope Sid behaves himself tonight. And he didn't. So I think it was about 12:30 it started up. So again, I woke up and then the sensor lighting went off again. So I hadn't done it for 2 nights and now the lighting. So then I'm lying there going, do I wake up Mark? And so I thought, no, I'm going to wake him up because I'm starting to get scared. So I woke him up and he's like, oh, for God's sake, because he got scared as well. And then his watch was by the side of his bed, and he's never ever programmed his alarm to go off. His watch doesn't have an alarm setting on. And all of a sudden his alarm starts going beep, 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 beep. And so we're looking at each other and he's like, what on earth? So he turns his watch off. 10 minutes later, beep, 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 beep. And I'm like, oh my God, it's playing with the electrics. So again, I do the protection and all of that. It took me a while to get back to sleep that night, but I have not been scared for a very, very long time. And that did scare me. Just because of I think it was the skull thing. And then, it is kind of poltergeist activity, that kind of stuff. But, and I didn't recognize it was coming from me and my energy. So there was obviously something that clocked. It wasn't based in the room. I think it came to me because it knew that I could communicate. And it was like, oh, let's have a play game on Jenny, probably.
Oh, wow. And there's obviously a lot of history and energies where that was.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not going back.
I don't watch horror films because I wouldn't be able to sleep.
I've had this a few times. I don't know if you've ever had it, but you feel yourself come out of your body.
Yes.
And and you can't. Have you ever done it where you're screaming and you can't move? You're stuck to the bed.
Yeah.
What is that, Jenny?
I have no. So it's interesting because I really wanted to talk to you about astral traveling today. Because I'm sure most of us have had this experience. I have had this kind of called a paralysis, isn't it, or something, when you kind of you can't move the body.
I was going into somewhere else.
So I think what's happening there is that there's it's either you're coming back in and you haven't got quite back into the body you've come out. So what happens every single night? This happens every single night, by the way. You might not remember it, or you may remember it. We do this thing called astral travel. So we come out of the body. And we go onto the astral plane, and the astral plane is a higher dimension where we're with spirit, so we could be with our loved ones, or we could be visiting places. It's a very different feeling to subconscious dreaming. Subconscious dreaming may be where you're having a replay of, say, an event, or where you have fear-based stuff come in is normally subconscious. But astral traveling is slightly different. So we do this thing called astral traveling every night. Now, have you ever had a dream where you're trying to fly, or you're falling and you kind of wake up as you fall back? That's you coming back in via the solar plexus, which is your chakra just above your belly button. So it's your energy point. So that's where you leave when you pass over, like when you die, you'd come out the solar plexus. And when you come back in at night, when you're doing your astral traveling. So I started recognizing that that's what I was doing. So I'm sure we've all had dreams like that. And sometimes you can't get fully back in the body. So sometimes I'll fall back in and I'll only half get in. and then my dream will restart as if like I'm then flying up and then coming back down. And I only worked it out recently, but that's what obviously is happening. It's trying to get yourself, because you remember how big you are, to try and fit back into the body. And we must be good at it because we don't always remember doing it. But so many, like I've studied like hundreds of near-death experiences, and they all talk about trying to fit back into the body. It's a very painful experience when they've come out, but to get back in, because we're so big energetically, we're so big, and this is such a dense avatar. So to get back in, but I think that's what you're doing. I think it's where you're trying to come back in, and you're almost like you're not in there. So you're like, ugh.
Do you remember when I was asleep that time and I said to you, I felt like I had an evil spirit try to get into me at night.
I've had
and
that
it
as
felt
well.
like it was coming out of, and I woke up and I was like, whoa, and it came out. I felt like
I've had a few of them where,
what is that?
And I've actually seen a dark thing before.
In the room.
I think a few people have seen things like that, and I don't know about your. I think they're dark energies, like.
Yeah.
What would you say?
So it's interesting. I think that there is the potential that it could be lower vibrational energies, but also I think there's the potential it could be your subconscious. So remember, you are energy. Everything around you is energy, and you are energy. And you know when people say about demons and stuff, and I've got a demon attached to me, or I've had a demon come in. Most of the time it's your unprocessed childhood trauma that's replaying out. So that's why I had to recognize that when I was in the hotel, was it my energy? Was it an expression of my unconscious that was being projected for me to see? Like, what does the devil horns? I had to question it all. So I don't fear that kind of stuff anymore necessarily. I kind of question, is it part of the unconscious psyche of me or the collective human consciousness? But we are so powerful. Like, you cannot be overtaken by spirit, in the sense they can't jump into your body and control you. You're way too powerful for that. So there is things like, I think it's transcendent mediumship and things like that, where they're channeling in a trance-like state. When I merge with spirit, it's a very different feeling. It's not scary, it's really addictive. So you get to this point where you feel like you're being almost like sucked out of your body, because they raise your vibration really fast. So it feels like you're on I've never been on psychedelics, but I imagine it's what you feel like. Literally, like you feel like you're out of body. So I get addicted to that feeling. But then your body feels like a dead weight, because your body is so heavy. So as we're talking about it, it's funny enough, I'm starting to feel it. But so energetically with say spirit, it could be, Paisley, when you said like you wanted to scream something out, it could be that that's the only time and space your body's able to release, when your conscious mind is shut off. So there could be trauma that's within your nervous system, and your body is an energetic system trying to release it. So sometimes we just go, it's actually probably the subconscious trying to release stuff, especially if you have dreams where you replay fears or you replay conversations, and it's the subconscious, because we don't give ourselves enough time and space to listen in our normal daytime. So we're basically running on subconscious a lot of the time. So it's the only way that the body can get you into awareness of things that need to be released, is when you switch that conscious mind off, and then you're gonna have the time when the body's in a restful state.
It's so true, God, actually.
I love it. I by the way, Jenny, I know we've got to come to the end soon of the podcast, but can we invite you on again?
Oh my God, yes, please. I mean, I would talk about this for hours and hours.
Honestly, there's like the astral flying. There's so much, and I think it'd be really nice to ask our listeners certain topics as well, because you've been phenomenal. Like, I've really, I could talk to you for about 4 more hours, because I love it. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you could tell you're very clued up on what you've done.
Well, do
you know what? It's, when you enjoy this topic so much, and you guys are saying that, it's because you're starting to remember you. It's all it is. I'm a reflection of you. I'm reflecting back to you all of these powers that you hold right now. And that's what the beauty of this is. I'm just reflecting and mirroring you, and what you're seeing in me is what you haven't yet seen in yourself yet. So if you're like, Jenny, oh my God, I love this subject, it's because it's your natural state and you're starting to remember. And you just needed a Jenny to come on and remind you.
I think even for all our listeners, like a lot of our listeners, I do know already are very, very open. So it's very. I can't wait for them to listen to this, because I mean, this is such
powerful.
a phenomenal episode. I love it. So you do readings and stuff. Can we ask a little thing for the end of the podcast? Could you do a little?
Yeah. So it is weird, because obviously I put my cards out by my like computer stuff earlier. So if I do, so Isla Fair, we're just going to ask to see what you need to hear today. So this is more psychic at the minute, because mediumship, it's not to say spirit won't come in, but mediumship takes a little bit, like you got to switch it on. It's like switching the TV screen on. So at the minute, I'm just asking the cards to provide us with something for you. And sometimes it's nice to close your eyes as well, because what you do is you switch off the visual and then you go inward. Okay, so the card that flew out for you, I'll work out where it is, it's called Honesty and Communication. So, Honesty and Communication card, that can come in when you're not being, do you know what? I think for you, it's actually you're not having your needs met. So, you know, as women, what we tend to do is we do this thing called people please, because we're programmed into it for a very long time. And being honest with people around what you need for a change, making yourself a priority as opposed to other people, can feel really alien to us. But also the communication part is having the courage to start speaking your truth. Even if your voice shakes, don't worry what anyone else thinks. There's a really good book called The Let Them Theory book by Mel Robbins. So I would highly recommend that book to your listeners as well. But the other part of this card is honesty. Now, honesty, integrity, it's about getting honest with yourself. So this is around starting to know thyself as opposed to even just believing in yourself. So this is around questioning everything that you think that you are at this moment in time. So most people are living in an inauthentic existence because they're not living in authenticity. So you've got to get really honest with yourself. And that can mean even looking back into the past and taking accountability and ownership of co-creation of moments in your life that you would not repeat now, but potentially past mistakes, past relationships, things like that. So this card for me is really pushing you into the highest vibration of authenticity. But for it to come in, it kind of means that you're already on this journey. And it's keep going. Does that make sense?
Amazing. I think it is really nice to hear that, because actually always a message from my nan is, she always says to me, keep going, don't forget what your dreams are, like just keep going. And that always message comes in all the time. And it has been hard, like for any listeners out there, when you have a baby, like I feel like all my energy lately has been into that soul, and I have forgotten about myself lately. So I think it's even for me to have this podcast with you today, it's like awakening me a bit more again.
It's the universe giving you another, so it's opportunities. Like the opportunity came in to be on your podcast, which for me is just brilliant. I was so excited. But also there's the universe has aligned us today for you to hear maybe messages that, you know, that potentially are going to help you move and shift and free yourself of these kind of blocks that are coming in. What was really interesting as you were talking about it, the card Yes flew out. And yes, when this card comes in, it's around saying yes to life, yes to new opportunities, new alignments with people. So it's a really positive card. And can you see, like, it's got rainbow colours here?
This is what I thought, because I was a dancer. And I teach dance as well, like the performing arts. And for me, when I just looked at that card's like a dancer. So
yeah, and it's literally like going yes to the universe, like yes to new opportunities, yes to life. It's falling back in love with life. But something's really interesting with that card is numerology-wise, 2025, so 2025, when we add that up, equals number 9. Number 9 in numerology is the end of cycles. So we are currently in an end of cycle year. So anything that's coming in this year that is not in alignment is going to get really loud, because it wants you to clear the space, surrender to it, let it go, because new beginnings, the new cycle is starting from next year and even towards the end of this year. So the next couple of months, you might get new opportunities coming in. But that card for you is around moving into authenticity and start saying yes to more alignment within your life. So yes to the new people. You only want to be hanging around with people in a growth mindset, those that are looking to be the best version of themselves every day. You are literally who you hang out with. You've got these things called mirror neurons. So if you're hanging out with people in a state of apathy or hopelessness, your biology is going to mirror their state. So, like if you're around people that drain your energy, so what's happening there is you're a higher vibration, and for you to have communication with them, you have to drop your energy down and they have to move up, which is really tiring. Whereas if you stay at a higher vibration and you only start attracting in people on this, what happens is you do this. So then it becomes more collaborative, expansive energy. It's so exciting. Honestly, lady, I cannot get over.
We can get this whole podcast lifted high.
We could go into a podcast all on quantum manifestation.
Can we? I would love to.
This fascinates me.
Right, Jenny, we're booking you in at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. This is weird though, because do you remember when this is the card that's come out for you, Paisley, but this card came out for you just before we jumped on. Do you remember the card jumped out?
Yeah.
So again, this is very similar to what we've just said. It's the power intention card. So Paisley, you've got to recognize, who are you giving your power to? No one takes your power, you give it away. So you've got to work out your belief systems, like, do you value yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you respect yourself? Only allow people in that are going to mirror that energy that you feel within yourself. So I love this analogy, right? I'm going to shuffle just in case another one comes out as we're talking. So we have got to think of ourselves as the queen, okay? Not everyone has access to the queen. If you think about it, your energy is like queen-like state. So you will not allow people in that are not representing, queen-like energy. By queen, I mean people, women particularly, in their power.
Wow.
It's a very different way of living, very different way. But not everyone has access to the queen, and that's okay. This is going to push on all the people-pleasing strategies that you've probably had most of your life, which we all have. I'm a recovering people-pleaser. You start working out, who are you actually living your life for, you or everyone else? And if you are people pleasing, or the people pleased that you've been, are you actually pleasing them? Most of the time, no.
Very true. Wow.
I was just seeing if there was one more card for you, but they've told me to go to the bottom of the deck. Clear, cancel and release. So when this card comes out, it's about getting really super conscious about not talking to yourself in a negative narrative. It's around not even joking about yourself, because your body doesn't know the difference between reality and non-reality. So even if you joke about yourself, like, oh, I'm an idiot, for example, I know someone who says that about themselves, your body thinks you're an idiot. If you say to yourself, I'm beautiful, your body's going to think you're beautiful. So it's whatever you say to yourself is going to come true. So you're speaking your reality into existence. So really be careful on the thoughts and the words that you use specifically around yourself.
That is so true for me lately. And I think everybody's learning. Like, you can know about all of this, but you forget it. So you have to keep going over stuff.
You have to integrate it.
Yes. Oh, let's get you back on.
Oh, I can't. Right, listeners.
We've got an hour
so
special
much,
for
Jenny.
Halloween.
Jenny, can you let us know? Because I'm sure our listeners out there will want to book you in straight away. I know you offer stuff on Zoom. Can you tell us what your handles are for social media for people to maybe get in touch with you?
I've got this spider. Sorry, it's come through.
The spider. Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, everyone. I'm under the Intuitive Path. And maybe we could put that in the things. It has like an underscore. I can never remember. But if you search for the Intuitive Path, I should come up. And on Facebook, again, the Intuitive Path. And my website is theintuitivepath.co.uk.
Amazing.
And the courses that you run, what do you teach in the courses?
So we do, it's funny because I think Spirit helped with me teaching, really. I'm just a channel. So I call it the Let's Get Intuitive course. And I do run this for men's groups and women's groups. So men, as I say, it's very exciting that the guys are now starting on this journey. So it's a 4-session course over 4 months, and dates are always agreed with the participants prior. And we look at things like how to expand and contract your aura, so your energetic field. And we use things like dowsing rods and pendulums. I teach you how to do energy healing, so you can do that for yourself or, say, family members or your pets. I teach you how to channel. So I teach you how to tap into the quantum field and channel information, not just for other people, but for yourself. I teach you how to do psychic mediumship, which you can do from day one. And I teach you something called telekinesis, which is moving the objects with energy, which I find fascinating.
Sorry, as we're doing that, we've got...
I know, I'm looking at you like, who's there?
on the shed door.
God, we're in our studio. My mum is going to be looking after them,
and she's letting them go fiddle in the garden, and they're knocking
on the window. This is burnt out mum
back
life,
to reality, by the way.
No, exactly. Yeah, back down to the lower vibrations of mumhood in that sense.
We're
Yeah.
just a bit of filming.
We're
Like
like
tapping on the window.
They're tapping, "Mummy, we want you." Oh gosh,
That's our hour up.
That's our hour up. Well, we better wrap it there. Thank you so
I'm
much,
booking onto
Jenny.
your course.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
ladies, come along. I'd love to have you.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
your time.
You're so welcome.
Can you hear them? They go, "Mummy, let us in."
Yeah. They can come in.
Say hello. Come and say hello to our audience.
Oh.
Come, Sunny, coming in. Say,
Just pull it.
Diana,
hard.
pull it.
Oh.
Put it hard.
Well,
It is the reality of working as a mum, isn't it?
Oh God, yeah, it just brings you back down.
Well, I've been talking to clients on the phone about some really sensitive stuff, and then I've got my daughter going, "Mummy, I need a poo," and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry that you."
sorry, I've had that as well. Mummy, can you wipe my bum? That's the one. Say hello.
Come and say
This is
hello.
our podcast.
Come this way, because they're dying to see it. They don't understand what a podcast is properly.
I
But
do.
see you. Come and say hello to everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
When all the family comes on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny. All right, we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Jenny. Bye. If you're loving the show, don't forget to download our latest episodes. It helps us a ton by boosting the show and making sure more people find us.
Plus, you can listen anytime, anywhere, even offline.
And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Spotify so you never miss a new drop.
Want even more behind the scenes content? Follow us on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok at Burnt Out Mamas, one word, for exclusive clips, updates and fun extras.
Hit that follow button, send us a message and let's keep the Burnt Out Mamas community going.